Hello and welcome to Bonktable. I'm Mass and their Starcraft Podcast. I am with me today are my two wonderful co-hosts. We have Competent Conquest Ben.
Hi.
And we have Apex Chinchilla.
Hello.
There we go. This is going to be Season 2 of the Bonktable Podcast. It is no longer going to be focusing on Conquest Last Argument Kings from Parabellum Games. It is now going to be focusing on Starcraft the Miniatures game from Archon Studios. Lately, I think I've played the most games out of both of you, weirdly enough. I still think Ben's better at it because I haven't beaten him once. But I'm quite enjoying this game. Had quite a lot of fun with it. After my first game, I was like, yeah, this is a really good game. We need to talk about it. We need to play more games. Ben, how did you get into Starcraft, and kind of what's your experience? Why do you want to talk about podcasting and specifically Starcrafting?
Well, in the Wayback Machine, I played StarCraft. I got into StarCraft Brood War, and I played on the ladder a bunch when I was a teenager back in, I don't know, when did it come out? 98, 99? Like the first couple years it was out.
I was 97.
97. And I at around the same time I was also getting into Warhammer. So I played Warhammer 40K back then, and I played Warhammer Fantasy Battles. And I don't know, I think I was 15. I certainly wasn't old enough to drive. I was born in 84, so I think it was 96 or 97 that I won my first Rogue Trader. It wasn't what I would call a big tournament. I think there were 16 or 20 people, something like that, but it still was pretty cool. That was my first foray into competitive wargaming, and I've never really given it up. I've taken breaks for a couple of years here and there, usually only because I can't find a game that is fun. I like the games to have a lot of tactical flexibility, and I want my play on the battlefield to matter more than my list building. As much as I enjoy list building, it's if I feel like the armies are in a place where if I'm not playing the correct one, I'm going to have unwinnable games, it kind of turns me off to playing that game competitively. And anybody who's followed 40K or Warhammer for a long time knows that Games Workshop has gone through those cycles many times. And at least right now, I'm loving StarCraft. I have played every faction, and I have felt like the winner was the person who made the fewest mistakes in every one of those games, which is one of the things I really, really look for. So it's all about having a game plan and being able to execute it well.
Nice.
And the rules are pretty tight. There are a couple of wonky things, and I'll probably talk about those today, but they'll get cleaned up. Overall, the rules are pretty tight.
Nice.
I like that too.
Yeah, thank you very much. Apex. Why
Hello.
are you getting into StarCraft? What's your work history on wargaming? I need to see your CV.
So I'm going to tell you, I actually didn't play that much StarCraft, in a PC, either StarCraft 1 or 2. I did have Brood War as well. I looked, it came out in 1998. In Bonktable fashion, we are not doing research for this. We're just going. But I did look, end of 98, I think. Yeah. End of 98 was when Brood War came out. I've also mostly avoided Games Workshop games. I got into wargaming early on War Machine Mark II. So I avoided most of the nonsense of Mark 1, and I had very few dips into Games Workshop games just because they just... For much the same reasons of the way Ben feels about their cycling of development, it hasn't appealed to me very much. I play tabletop games because I like the mental challenge. I like to, be faced with an opponent that's going to challenge me, going to offer good mental stimulation. So I prefer games that have a little bit more punish to them, which I think StarCraft so far in my 2 games has seemed to. Things definitely die in this game. And it does feel very rewarding. As Ben mentioned, feels like the person who played better is doing well, is winning these games. I think R2 Games Mass, that's definitely felt the case where you get heavily punished for, making errors. And there are definitely things you can learn from, which I also like. And I'll echo Ben mostly as well, that I think the core of the game, the core rules are interesting. They're tight. The game plays smooth. I've called it slick a couple of times. I think they're probably going to have to do an FAQ with some of the weird corner case stuff and just establishing, like, can you control an inactive objective? But I think we'll get into those a little bit later.
Can creep climb walls?
Can creep climb walls? Yeah.
Zergara, please?
So the other thing I think that's going to be a little bit unusual, I historically am a mono faction player. So I've latched onto Zerg because I do enjoy Heroes of the Storm, and I'm a big fan of Blade Mommy Kerrigan. So you can expect a lot of Zerg comments out of me. That's like I will likely play as just Zerg. I know Ben loves to play every faction and play a gajillion T lists. I'm a little bit more of a grinder. I'll latch onto like 2 lists I like and play them for a year. So...
Both things have their merits. I like learning. I like playing the other side of the matchup because then I learn what my opponent's trying to do. And if your opponent can't do what they want to do, that's probably more important than you doing what you want to do.
Oh yes, no. I just want to grind the matchup from my perspective, like 57,000 times, like my experience playing into Scar 1 or Haley 2. Oh Lord. I'm having a little bit of trauma flashbacks now from Scar 1 too.
Dude, I played a 4-hour Haley 2 game and I only played an hour of it. So like
I'm a big clock fan. I don't know that StarCraft is going to need a clock because it plays fast, but you could definitely throw like some form of like hour each player clock on there just to keep tournament games on pace, so tournaments are on schedule, because there's nothing worse than like going to an event and traveling and then it lasts like 2 hours longer than it's supposed to and then you're not home till like 2 o'clock in the morning.
Or like it's the start of round 3 and they're like, all right, that's the round time. You're like, we have literally just deployed and shot once. Like, say thank you.
Hooray. I like I said, I hope they put some form of clock mechanic. It doesn't need to be as punishing as a death clock, but I'll be really curious. I think they were targeting like fall-ish for an organized play pack. I'd be curious to see where that goes as far as, is it 2 list? Are we concealing lists? Because I think they did that in the event they ran.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they ran one event in beta, and what they did were 2 concealed lists. Faction was revealed, then you set the list you were going to play down, like face down, and then you both revealed at the same time. So,
interesting. But you get to see the list after you've picked, though, right? Like you're not going in. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I can get behind that.
You didn't have the information of the full lists because, like in War Machine, like both your casters, and you could be like, they have Haley 2. I can't bring, or like, they have Kane. I can't bring Gatsby, right?
Yeah, you don't want that. That's ugly. I'm playing Signar, so I guess I'm playing Kruger 2 was more my speed, but Yeah.
Right, but those were the types of things.
You didn't have Gatsby 2 kill the Bone Jack on the hill and then sit in the rubble?
That's the Mark II Classic.
Yeah. Such a wild time. You're like, what is happening? Oh, that's
you're
my
plus,
mobile
plus
cover.
6 defense. How would you like to be that?
I dropped a Gordon walk wall on a hill and I was like, eat it. I'm never dying now.
I'll never just till somebody drifts a knockdown template on you.
He can't be knocked down. He's Gorton.
Oh, Gorton couldn't. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
the Crixcasters mostly could. Though I've seen Crixcasters die in the Jack on the Hill from the knockdown template drift.
The Earthbreaker, so good. Thank you very much, Apex, for your work history. As for myself, I'm Mass. I run Bonktable. I'm huge into RTS games. I started very young, like at the age of 7. Playing RTS. It started with Warcraft 3. I was like, this looks fun. And then my computer couldn't handle it, and my dad didn't want to share his, so I had to play Warcraft 1 and 2. And then he decided to upgrade my computer so I could play Warcraft 3. I never played the original Starcraft just because I wasn't really interested in it. But I did play a bunch of Wings of Liberty and here, what is it? What's the second one? The Zerg one. Heart of the Swarm. Had a ton of fun with that, but I kind of dropped off and fell off StarCraft around that point. I played a ton of Age of Empires 2 and Rise of Nations and all that other stuff, like during the big RTS of the late 90s, early 2000s. So, huge RTS player. I started in miniature war gaming after just randomly entering a Warhammer store when I was very young and picking up Wood Elves and not really understand what's going on and just kind of like playing Wood Elves into random people at a very low point level because I was just a kid. Then I got introduced to War Machine, where I got very much into and was a mono faction player before. After a couple years, I'll expand out because I found with myself, once I solve something and it becomes like easy, there's no challenge, I like to move on and discover the next thing that will be difficult, so that there's always a challenge, there's always something to overcome. So, went from Mercs to Khador to Crucible Gar to Circle, and I think back to Khador at one point before I finally ended. Did all Mark II and Mark III. Mark IV didn't interest me. We've all played Conquest, Last Argument of Kings. I know I've jumped around. I think Apex is still one factioning, stuff like that. Yeah. And now we're into StarCraft. I'm playing Terran just because I've always liked Terran from StarCraft 2. Like, the Marauder is my favorite model, or I guess unit, or whatever you want to call it. I love him. So I wanted to put him on a table and play around with him. And I think, like, one of the big things I really like about StarCraft is the miniatures game, it feels like StarCraft, the RTS. Like, everything here feels like something these heroes and units would do, the buildings would do, and it all feels like the game, but you're just playing with miniatures, what I really like. The core rules and the core gameplay loop of the different phases and the alternating activations I really like to, like, get your stuff moving, the play and counterplay from your opponent. There's a lot going on. And even with just the baseline stuff where a lot of factions really only have, like, 5 units at most, there's a lot of crunch and a lot of choice just off of the starting stuff, what really tells you how far this game can go. And just, like, listening to Archon, I'm really excited for what they do in the future for all these factions and for how the game goes.
Yeah. I should probably mention, since I didn't, I am going to be maining Protoss. If you've seen any of my videos, like, I played Protoss in all but one of them. I like Apex pointed out, I like playing a lot of different factions, but usually I do still pick one that I'm going to play in person. And that is going to be Protoss for me. I'm going to make sure I go pretty far down the line. And I was a Reaver drop main in Brood War, because it had a slightly lower win rate, but my wins were so fast that I climbed ladder faster.
Nice.
Because if people weren't ready for it, like, it was like 7-minute wins, because you would just drop Reavers on all their bases and it would kill all their supply and they would just leave the game.
I feel like you're still doing that in the miniatures game, by the way, when the Hero Stalker activated, and I was like, whoa, what's going on?
Yeah.
But everyone should watch that battle report. Freaking Arcanus just shows up. It's just like, what is happening? The Hero Stalker. I gotta turn that into a YouTube short. I think I just need to find the music for it. But gentlemen, so what is? We've kind of introduced ourselves, talked about some things we kind of like about StarCraft, but like what are some, I guess, some details of stuff we like about it? We'll go with Ben. You can go first.
So one of the things that felt weirdest to me that I really have, like, that I love now is the movement system. It's so much cleaner to move a guy and then just place your other dudes in coherency. Almost all the time, it speeds up play, it feels cleaner, it doesn't get into these weird things where you can't move the whole unit because one guy is, like, weirdly wedged behind another unit and a building. It's just really, really beneficial. And I also like that coherency happens when the unit takes an action. So you can get shot in the middle of your unit and kill guys. In our last game, you were engaged in melee on 2 fronts, and like a bunch of guys died, so the two dudes on the outside were like 5 inches apart because neither one of them were the leading model, and that doesn't matter. Like once you got back into combat, or once you activated again, you would just put them back into coherency.
I think they didn't because they were just stuck in melee and like stabbed Artanis.
I think they died.
No, I think they got to stab, then they died.
Yeah, but
yeah, it's just...
I don't think they ever got that opportunity. But they would have had you disengaged the next turn had they lived.
Life of a Marine. Oh God, we're gonna die today. Yeah, buddy.
Oh, I think the movement, like, it's snappy and it goes quick, even on the hellscape that is Tabletop Simulator. I also think, like, just the way they wrote the rule is again, I'm going to go back to, like, calling it pretty slick with the split speed stat, where they've built that place into the unit speed to some degree. Like, You're not, like, speed 7 and then a 3-inch place off of that and then moving from there, unless you're doing a bunch of buffs onto things. So things are fast and the table is a little bit smaller, but they don't feel like unreasonable. It's not like you're shooting like 24 inches across the table from one side guy because you got a weird reform, like you can sort of do in Mark IV War Machine.
And I like that the table's smaller because a 36-inch wide board fits on a lot of tables.
It fits a home table pretty well. I was kind of doing some looking into this when they announced the size. That's like standard like dining room table size in the States for the most part. Like it's not hard to fit. And the game can be 5 turns because action's starting on 1, 2 at the latest.
Yep.
Someone's getting shot usually in turn and the assault phase of turn 1. What I've noticed. Like there's always a shot to take.
Yeah. Yeah, you can usually stop yourself from getting shot on turn 1, but there is game being played starting on turn 1, which I really like, and not just the like jockeying for position, and also not leaf blower. That's a 5th edition 40k thing for those of you keeping track at home. It was an Imperial Guard army that the whole point of it was to literally sweep armies on turn 1, and it did it very well. I believe it won Adepticon that year because
what year was that, Ben?
Was that this century, Benjamin?
Yeah, Ben,
yeah.
As we previously determined, you're either between the age of 46 or like 85. So
this is funny because Ben's not that much older than me.
Yeah.
But Mass is the youngest of us by a fair bit, so...
You're still, like, in your 30s, Apex.
I will turn 40 this year. You'll be there, I think.
Calm the fuck down. You're not 40 yet. You can't get into historicals.
Not yet.
It was 09, I think.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Oh, so no, it was
that's pretty recent.
Yeah, it was this century at least.
Have they gone through 5 editions that fast? Like, what's the edition lifespan of a Games Workshop?
3 years.
3 years.
Yeah, 2 to 3 years.
They can sell you more books, or I don't.
Yeah. I mean, there's been reasons. Like I think 8th edition was only 2 years because 9th edition was more like an 8.5 than it was anything else. They just cleaned up a lot of things, and then 9th has been around for a little bit, and then 10th I think has some changes. I don't know. I don't really keep up on it. But it's
somebody who listens to this is going to write us like a whole, like 12-page essay about the history of Games Workshop editions because of my comments.
Weirdly enough, I would read that. I do love like history of stuff, and that is history of stuff.
I mean, yeah, that's the sort of tism I can get behind, so I'm in on that. I would probably also read it. There's
a guy on YouTube who goes through each edition of Warhammer, like each like Warhammer Fantasy and 40K, like doing like the Games Workshop history, and it's really interesting because he's doing it edition by edition and like what's going on, big names who were there, what they did, when they fell off, like all that stuff. And it's a really interesting like watch. It's usually like a 2-hour video, and he doesn't release them very consistently because there's a ton of research, and like kudos to this gentleman. but they're really great just on the history of GW and all what's going on, and like when they changed their name and how they got to start like doing D&D minis in the UK, and then making their paint line and all that stuff. I was actually like really thrilled about it. Couldn't tell you what it is off the top of my head, but
I'm a big fan of the guy who does the history of like world records for speedruns for video games, Summoning Salt.
Ooh,
I love those videos. Shout out to Summoning Salt on our first episode, because I love that nonsense. Even the ones where you wouldn't think it'd be that interesting, like the history of Tetris world records, phenomenal.
Just go watch the Tetris movie. I heard it's good.
I watched a documentary over the weekend, like the Tetris murders, because one of the guys who like created Tetris apparently like got accused of like murdering his family and then killing himself. But maybe it was like a Russian organized crime. It's fascinating. It's called the Tetris murders.
All right, guess I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we. All right, podcast's over. Short episode. We're all gonna go watch a documentary, I guess.
We'll come back and talk about Tetris murders.
We'll come back and talk about we could do a true crime podcast. I'd be in on that, but I think that'd be a different set of episodes. We're gonna do bring back Bonktable After Dark, and it's just talking about like the most gruesome unsolved murders we can find.
Oh, it's bad when you do.
But also without research. That's the play. We'll just come to conclusions with no research. Okay.
So we're gonna be BuzzFeed Unsolved.
Yes.
Perfect. We could do that.
Oh my god.
So speaking of murders, Leaf Blower won Ard Boys in 2009, which was a competitive tournament circuit that Games Workshop put out, and it was kind of a satellite. It had 3 levels of events. And yeah, it was 2,500 points, and you had to win a local event, then you had to win a regional event, and then you had to win a national event.
To attend.
Maybe Worlds. Yeah, so in order you had to win, basically you had to win each tier of event. This Leaf Blower army did in fact do its job and blow entire armies off the board by setting up in a line of chimeras and basilisks and just shot everything off the table.
Perfect.
It was just a bunch of tanks.
Game design.
Yeah. So it's things like that. And there was like one list that was a reasonable counter to it. That was a Space Wolf list that could like outflank and charge from the board edge, which is something that normally games don't let you do. That could deal with it, but it wasn't 100%, and and that was a format where basically you had 2 lists. And I don't think StarCraft's core design will allow the game to turn into that. Like the missions are too well like developed, and the way deployment works and the way units look like they're designed and the rules are designed, it just doesn't lend itself to that kind of to steal Huckleberry's joke, cuck chair gameplay, where you just sit there and watch all your stuff die.
Oh my god.
Yeah. I don't think I could go back to like a full like alternating turns game, like alternating activations, where it's just so much like more engaging. A you go, I go thing, it has no interest for me at this point anymore, even if I think it lends itself to making more interesting like play combinations, because you're not likely to get interrupted as much. Oh man, just sitting there for like 35 minutes watching my opponent like, operate a whole turn just does not appeal.
Yeah, but from a gameplay perspective, you can also make those combos more powerful if they're disruptible. So you can make them more rewarding to pull off, which I like. And from a game design perspective, like I think that is really cool. I mean, it's one of the things that I think, Terran does very well in this game is the ability to set up your stim packs and heal, and then set up ways to defend your units. Even things like point defense zone, which I think is very situational. It's better than I gave it credit for originally.
I forgot to use it into Apex. There was a turn I was going to use it. Totally
it would have helped.
Because I was like...
It would have helped.
I probably would have kept a guy alive, but I was like, I can't be bothered.
I don't think it would have mattered. Like, I think that game was already pretty much in hand for you. But yeah, no, you can definitely put in powerful combos because your opponent does have, a little bit of agency in trying to break up your combos, which is just a good point. As far as like, right now with what we're seeing, it doesn't feel like anything is just like way, way over the top.
No.
It doesn't feel like things are getting put on the table. It's just like, well, there's nothing in my faction that would be able to deal with this. I guess I just lose, which I like. I mean, obviously the game's not even out yet. It's still in beta. But, I think at a base level, it feels pretty good.
Yeah.
Like, even though, like, I feel like I'm getting the shit kicked out of me as Terran. Like, we've discussed in private, like, what I think you gotta do with Terran, how you gotta play Terran, and I think, like, right off the hop, Terran has the highest skill floor out of the three. But I also think it's really rewarding when you get all the things off, and when you start developing the tactics on the table to make up for the weaknesses, especially the melee stuff, because, like, Terran does not want to fight in melee. Protoss and Zerg love fighting in melee. They have dedicated units for it, and even some units that are not so dedicated for it, they still do perfectly fine. Like, the Adept is probably one of the best design units in this entire game because of all its different positioning stuff. It's good at shooting, it's good at meleeing, but it's not, like, backbreaking either. It just covers it's a great generalist.
Yeah, they are a generalist, and they are definitely a melee unit. I think this is one of the things that I see people who are struggling with Protoss not realize is that Adepts are better in melee than they are not in melee. You want to get them into hand-to-hand. Yeah, you want to get them into melee with something that, like, they're reasonable against. I mean, ideally, you get them in against something that's light, and then they get evade against that thing's shooting, and they give up evade, but they have anti-evade. Like, you kind of want to be using your keywords. And they have short range, and if you take the upgrade, which is like a mathematically very good upgrade, by the way, for their melee weapon, to turn it into Pierce 2 Light and Surge D3, like, they actually get kind of terrifying against light units in melee.
At 170?
It's 20 points, but it's...
Yeah. Do it.
But it's 20 points, but it is one of the, like, most efficient damage output upgrades in the game. It's just you're making melee attacks with your Adepts. And they only have 4 attacks for the unit, and they hit on 4 pluses. So their stonks go up significantly if you use a gateway on them to give them precision 2. Because then you're likely to hit with all 4 of them. And now you're looking at 8 damage if they get through saves. Which is a ton of damage. Like, almost nothing does damage on that level in melee. So they're an interesting
Pierce
unit.
2 Light's quite interesting on the upgrade.
Yeah, but they only have 1 attack each. There's only 4 models in the unit. You can't upgrade them, and they also get a surge die D3 against light, and it's 20 points. So it's tough to bring it, but if you can get them precision, and they're going to get precision 1 probably from their spooky ghost. So that matters a lot. So I don't know. They're an interesting unit because you're pretty much guaranteed to do 4 damage because you're probably going to hit with at least 1 precise 1, and then you're probably going to get your 2 on your surge, and 4 damage is a lot of damage in this game.
Yeah. I mean, 4 damage is killing models for an awful lot of units.
It's a third of a Marine squad.
Yeah.
I mean, stop it.
Things die in this game. And often quite rapidly.
It's a third of a zealot squad too. It kills a zealot, like
even through the shield.
Oh yeah.
Well, the first zealot, I guess. Yeah. So it's not quite a third of a zealot. It's a third of.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you punch through all 4 with your precision 2, you can kill a zealot at that point, right? 8 kills a zealot.
8 kills a zealot from full.
8's half the wounds on the kind of the most durable of the basic core units. So yeah.
But yeah, I think one of the things that I've seen in the discords for people struggling with Protoss is they're not using Adepts as a melee unit. And I actually haven't been taking Glaive Strike very often because a lot of the time I wanted to put my zealots into, or my adepts into like marauders, because they just tank marauders very well.
Yep, not getting Pierce 2, not getting Surge. Like, putting your units into, either putting your damage into their Surge targets and putting your opponent's damage into their non-Surge targets is huge for this game. Like, the armor matchup, you need to figure out, like, you need to understand what it is, you need to know what it is on your opponent's stuff, and you need to position your units to do that damage to their corresponding targets to actually do appropriate amounts of damage to break through things at a consistent rate to make up for you taking damage back. If you're
Pierce isn't. The game's interesting because Surge is I want to shoot this target. Pierce is I have to shoot this target.
Yeah,
because you're paying for Pierce, and if you're not shooting your Pierce target, you there's only 5 turns. And I don't know how else to say that, right? Like, if you spend a turn not shooting your Pierce target, you've lost just a massive amount of that unit's total output.
I would like to see more Pierce, to be honest.
So I'm going to throw this out there. I think this is, like, 5 rounds, I think, is the shortest, like, game I've played, like, by design. Like, these games are designed to be short and brutal, it feels like. Like, you know, this isn't, 8 or 9 turns, and we're gonna waffle around and dirtle to get position for a couple of turns, and then try to execute with whole armies on the table. Like, the reinforcement mechanic is really neat. The supply mechanic is really neat. You're going to probably use more supply than you think you would, as long as you can, if you can build a list that way. Because stuff just starts dying fast and dies fast. So the 5 turns like sounds short when someone says it, but on the table, like, it feels fast, which is cool.
Usually, if you're making it to turn 5, there's really not a lot left on the table.
I think both of our games we could have just talked it out by 5. So maybe one dice roll.
And I think that I'm gonna go in my old man mode here, but I can't pick up my garbage without a Kleppy thing.
Is that what we're gonna use for your birthday this year?
Like one of those like grabby arms.
Yeah,
we're gonna send Ben a rollator with a seat. That's what's happening.
All right, everyone, shut up. An old man is speaking.
So, respect your elders.
Clouds.
But like, one of the things I've played a lot of games over a lot of years, and I've played a lot of games of a lot of different turn lengths, and usually the first 4 or 5 turns determine the game. We played Conquest, which is a 10-turn game, for a lot of years, like as a group. I can count on one hand how many games were not decided by turn 6. Like, in my experience.
It's not very many, that's for sure.
Yeah, so half the game wasn't even played in just a very large number of games. And I mean, 40k, like I said, I played a lot of 40k, I played a lot of AOS, and Warhammer Fantasy, and those games were all 6 turns. For the majority of their lifespans. And most of those games were usually decided on turns 3 or 4, because it's kind of like playing 7 turns, because deployment was kind of a game, or kind of a full turn, and usually by the end of turn 4, you knew it was going to happen. So it's like, well, are we going to play these other turns? I do love if you're ahead by 10 victory points, the game ends, because there's not going to be enough time to come back reasonably in this game, and there's no reason to, like, it always feels bad to just, like, run up your point total for tiebreakers against somebody once a game's over.
Yeah, we'll be curious to see what they do for tiebreakers. I think all 3 of us lean more toward organized play, so the idea of having that packet out, and I think, like I said, I think they said fall-ish was their target. Be interesting to see things like points and tiebreakers, how much terrain's on the table. Mass and I were talking about this during the last game we played on TTS. The TTS maps have a ton of terrain. Like, if you actually sit down and count the terrain elements, what did we come up with? Like 12 or 13 terrain elements on that table?
It was above 10, but I think it was...
Yeah, and like I don't know if you can do that in an in-person event. Like
think about it,
probably. But...
let's say it's 60, 32 tables, 64 players. That's a lot of terrain per table. Like, how big? Like, I know
3D terrain as well. Like, it's hard to move all of that stuff.
Oh, he's posting pictures of Lost Temple.
So I'm posting these 2 pictures, and you may want to. I don't know if you're going to do an Instagram for this or something. But these are both in the app.
This is Jarek. I saw these where he kind of had these out here to use the size 3, and I would love to play on one of these because I don't think any of the maps we've played on have elevated terrain, have high ground, which seems really good for me.
Some people do use it. Some people are playing the buildings as just like 3 inches to move up a side.
So the whole thing, it's just like a hill.
Yeah. They're using like. I'll just jump to another game. They're using like more time or kill team rules, where like changing an elevation was just a set amount of movement.
You just
so I've seen some people doing that.
Done.
Yeah. So there have been a fair amount of people, but like there's a lot of terrain on these boards, and these are what there's actually a description somewhere. Oh man, like. One of the guys in the Koprulu Discord posted the like terrain, the intentional design of terrain, basically.
I think that the game seems intended to be terrain dense.
Right. Yeah, so you're supposed to have a lot of terrain.
What also looks good on tables, especially if they're doing like 3D stuff. I know everyone loves watching 3D tables. Like, I know there's people who don't like the L-shaped stuff from 40K. What's been going on a lot right now. I'm really curious if they're going to implement like 2D stuff, like the bushes from Starcraft. Go hide in the bushes and be surprised, like Siege Tank or something dumb. But you can't see me, so you can't shoot me, but I can shoot out. Like, awesome.
They actually have updated the rules for grass.
Yeah, so grass. Or will they add water? Will they add, other different stuff like that? Because a lot of the stuff is currently fancy 3D terrain. Like right now with this Jarek map, there's 14 pieces of size 2 and 3 terrain on this board. If you're doing that,
there's 20 some pieces of terrain total.
Yeah, that's ignoring the size 1 stuff that you can walk over. That's all the stuff you can't move through and actually have to get around or go up.
Yeah, so grass you can move through, but it is size 2 for the cover. So it's size 2 for a line of sight block on cover. It gets destroyed when anything moves through it.
Yeah.
And
is that what the purple X's are supposed to be? Is that they're grass?
Yeah, the purple pieces are grass. So
all right, so they'd be destroyable. You can move through the size 1s. I like that the rules have like the whole gap thing. Like if you are size 1 or 2, you can always move through an inch gap as long as at the end of your movement your base can fit in a legal spot. If you're size 3 or more, regardless of how massive we make these bases, you can move through a 3-inch gap as long as you can land somewhere at the end. I think that's good. I think that makes it fairly easy to just look at a map and be like, okay, I'm not going to jam myself in this badly. I'll be curious to see how big things were. There was somebody had a comment that one of the developers had said the siege tank was on a 150 millimeter base. Yeah. Which is massive.
I think isn't that the same size as like Stormwall?
No, those were 120s.
Yeah, they were 4-inch. No.
Okay. Yeah, those are Colossals were 120, so it's another inch beyond that. But I don't know if it's a 150 round or if it's going to be some sort of oblong thing. Like because the Hydras are like 100 millimeter ovoids.
Yep.
They're a little bit wonky to move around, but not terrible.
Yeah, because an Imperial Knight base is 170 by 105.
Yeah, so if you're doing like 150 by probably about 105, 95, 150 by 95, I think is what that would work out to. That'd be
Yep.
doable, I guess.
My question is, how is this
Yeah.
stuff going to actually move around the table? Like, okay, the siege tank sets up and it's goes into it drives in,
Yeah.
goes into siege mode, bang, bang, bang.
Yeah.
Okay, so what about the other stuff that's moving around? What's about that size? Like,
I guess Soul Grinders.
I think Ultralisks
Soul
will be the big one.
Grinders are 160.
yeah, like Thor.
Yeah, so I've seen 160 bases before and played with them. They're not that crazy.
Yeah, but also the tables are bigger. The terrain was spread out a bit more to actually fit that stuff. Like, I've seen Knightless on the table, and usually they're just kind of like hiding and moving through the streets while infantry stuff is getting into the buildings to get cover.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a much smaller table, so yeah.
Does the siege tank have range the board? Like, damn.
I mean, I could see.
It's a smaller table, but you're going to be moving. This, you're probably siege tank's probably going to be moving like 5 or 6, right? Like Immortals are probably going to be moving. Immortals are the same speed as a Queen, in the same speed tier in the Starcraft video game. So I'm guessing Immortals are going to be move 4.
I'd assume Ravagers will be the same. So I do think kind of their balance challenge type units are coming out fairly early in the game cycle. The things that are historically hard to balance for other games, like artillery is wave 2, flyers I think are wave 3 or 4. Psionic units are coming out somewhere in there. How are we going to manage psionics? Although I think resource management on psionics kind of keeps it from being likely to be too dumb.
Well, is it going to be like an energy bar, like another either token or card system, or is it just going to be going off the CP cards?
I guess I thought about it. You're probably just doing off the CP. Yeah.
But then, like, is that any different than your units themselves? Flipping CPs to go do their abilities. Is there going to be a distinction where it's going to be its own system to account for, let's say, the energy bar? Compared to
the cards are. So the Protoss cards are already called Psionic Energy, so I would be very surprised if it's a new system.
Okay.
I'm expecting there to be I'm expecting Psystorm to cost like 3, right? And it's going to be one of those things where it's really powerful, but it's also really expensive. And I actually really like the card mechanic.
Oh yeah. Can we talk about that?
I hate the 40k one. Part of the reason I quit 40k was actually about spending command points to do random card effects because units didn't do what they said they did. And in this game, the units say what they do and the cards say what they do, and they're in the game and they're still an interesting resource management tool. And depleting them and playing around them is actually a significant strategic gameplay thing. Because in our last game, when you spent on Flare, I knew that, and I was watching your cards because I was like, you're going to run out and you're not going to be able to use medics the way you want to. So I intentionally got significantly more aggressive that turn to try to dump damage on you when you couldn't successfully when you weren't able to use medics. That opened up a turn for me where I could just do a ton of damage safely, which is not normally available. And I really liked that part of the mechanic was there.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, because I remember flaring, Hero Stalker goes in, Artanis, you're dumping Adepts into me. I'm like, oh, he's collapsing now. He's getting way more aggressive than anything I've ever seen out of you. Because a lot of the time you'd take it easy, shoot me with a bunch of Stalkers. I didn't really have an out. And then it's I started solving your Stalker problem, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna flip it on your head and just dogpile you in melee. And I'm like, oh fuck. You're not where I want to be today.
Yeah, the card resource management is it's tighter than it seems like it should be on paper, right? When you're building this, you're like, oh, this is fine. I've got, I can do whatever I want to do. I can get all this stuff on. And then you get in the game, it's like, well, shit, I really can't. I need to prioritize and make good choices. It's like, how dare they? How dare they not just let me do everything?
Yeah, and every choice, the opportunity cost of everything, every single one of your choices is a big deal too. Because, you take your observer, right? Whatever your reveal hidden mechanic is, and you're like, well, do I want to flip this to pay for my ability? That I probably am not going to use it, but then my opponent could get away with using hidden or from some effect. And so I kind of have to keep it up at least till the end of the movement phase, and then I can freely use it in a different phase. And there's a lot of play there, and I really like it. And I think one of the first things when I played against Brian, one of the things that he really noticed in that game was he was just not using cards even like at all effectively. He was just like, yeah, I got completely outplayed by your management of the like resources from cards, and he underused his burrow mechanics. And he just like really wasn't thinking about how all of those effects were going to be used throughout the turn.
Yeah, and especially with this game, I think like players, like new players especially, there's a lot going on initially, but like I think it's also very manageable in learning it. Like get miniatures on the table, learn the core gameplay loop of movement, shoot, melee, and turn phase. Okay, and you'll probably use a couple cards, but nothing too crazy. Next turn, start making more use, or next game, start making more use of your cards. Next game, start making more use out of the abilities on your stuff on top of the core gameplay. Like, it's kind of going to go in sessions to actually start understanding where your stuff needs to be, how you're going to deploy your stuff, when are you going to use your cards, what are they going to be good for. And I think it's going to be a couple games for a lot of players before they start really, like, getting that. And that's what I like about it, because it is crunchy and deep. More so than just like on paper being just like, oh yeah, you're gonna move your stuff up and shoot it. And it doesn't feel like a sci-fi war game. It feels like Starcraft, but also has that depth in it with the card mechanic. I did listen to the Archon interview with Goonhammer this morning.
I haven't watched it yet.
It's pretty good. I was paying some minis while doing it, but the CEO, he was talking about like how they went through a bunch of different iterations of this game. What was really interesting of like the base building. Like base building is really important in RTS, but putting it onto the cards means we can just skip that step and just go straight into the fight. And like how the lists are is that's your strategy for that game. Like when you go into matchmaking, you have your opening. That's your turn 1 is your opening, and then turn 2 is like the rest of your strategy and stuff like that. Like it really does feel like StarCraft like that, and it gets rid of the parts that some people maybe had issues with in the RTS game, where maybe they're not great at micro and macro at the same time. What is a skill, and got to have APM and all that for, but putting it to the cards and just having your miniatures on the table, all you got to do is micro your stuff. That's one less thing you got to deal with. What I quite like. Maybe I'll get past gold this time.
Pretty sure my APM is like 12, so
he spent one of his 12 actions this minute to move those zerglings.
It is, the RTS games are definitely not my specialty. Although I did play a bunch of like the older ones, like Command and Conquer Red Alert 1 and 2.
Oh yeah,
and Warcraft 1 and 2. So, but never competitively. That was, not really something I ever jumped into. So, I don't know. Did Command and Conquer have a competitive scene?
I couldn't tell you.
It did. Yeah.
Did it? Okay. I sort of assume everything does, but
yeah. Everything does. I don't believe it had an in-game ladder the same way StarCraft did. So it was something that you had to like look for tournaments for. But it did have a competitive scene. So I did find the game rules section on Battlefield setup, and the stuff that has been community made and stuff that's been made by like Jarek, who is the CEO for anybody who doesn't know. Use more terrain than the preparing for battle section. So the preparing for battle section says 8 to 12 pieces, 0 to 2 size 0, 2 to 4 size 1, 4 to 6 size 2, and then 1 to 2 size 3. And then also 4 to 6 pieces of grass. So I guess it's the grass doesn't count those are kind of like bonus, which is interesting. So it's like 8 to 12 pieces, and then like 4 to 6 pieces of grass, because the grass gets destroyed since they're impermanent and they don't block movement. That's an interesting little like side.
You're not
At least
including
that's how I'm
the
reading
grass.
this. So
Not
and then
including the grass is interesting. The grass, because you can move through it, that's a lot better. Yeah.
Yeah, it says 8 to 12 pieces total, but then like, if you do the math on these, even the minimum, I guess the minimum here is 11 if you use all of them. So it looks like it doesn't include the grass, but I don't know if that's the intention. But it does say you should always have one significant piece of terrain in the middle of the board. Size 3 terrain pieces that you can stand on need to have an entry point. Alternating placing terrain pieces to build the board is a part of the gameplay if you choose to do it. There are also going to be preset terrain layouts in the back of the rulebook when a physical rulebook comes out. At least according to 9.3 Battlefield Setup, it says, from the dimensions specified on the deployment card, assign entry edges as indicated on the deployment card, set up zone of influence, and then mission markers, and then finally set terrain either by selecting or rolling for one of the pre-made maps on the last pages of the rulebook, or starting with the red player, players alternate placing terrain until they've reached the density guide below.
Okay.
So I've just been playing on whatever people put into TTS because I am way too lazy to make a board myself.
Yeah, I agree. It'll be interesting in person, because of course the game changes when you start playing in person, because right now we're all playing on TTS because that's all we have. When we got to pull out all this terrain, like I'm looking at Tournament Pro Skill Map 1 created by Oper Strike. He's got like the ramp and the high ground. He's got like 4 of them backed into each other for basically this just massive building with 4 entrances in the middle of the table. And he's got like walls on top and size 1, and he's got a bunch of size like this. I'm looking at it. It looks cool. I'd play on it for sure. No idea if it'd be like good for a tournament. Like if we were going for an organized play, like tournament pack. Don't know if it'd ever be good. But if I saw this on a table at my local game store, if I'm doing pickup games, I'd play on it. I played on the goddamn wall from Conquest, and everyone knows that one was a nightmare. If you want to know about the wall, you got to join the Bonktable Discord, and I'll send you a photo. It's wild, but like a lot of these I'm looking at, and it's like, okay, that's kind of interesting. I like what the communities are doing because they're trying to fun stuff. They're trying to they kind of look like maps you would see from the custom, or not the custom games, but like from the baseline. Like when you want to play a skirmish just against the AI in the actual game. Because Blizzard had like a ton of these things, and you would just be like, yeah, we'll play that. Like one guy, fastest map possible, it's literally just a bunch of size 2 walls that funnel you into the middle. Like, okay.
Yeah. I mean, that one's definitely like a bit of a joke. The one that is grass in the eye is pretty funny.
Yeah.
At least it looks cool. But yeah, I don't want to get too sidetracked by those. But there are, like, look at the section. Definitely a lot of the boards look pretty interesting. The 2 that are put out by Jarek, I think, are going to be... Those are likely close to what's going to be in the rulebook, so I'm kind of using those as a basis more than anything else. There's one in here that I think was kind of cool because it used 2 terrain sets, offset. And it literally didn't use... It's by Roger M. And it comes like if you get the all-in bundle, you're gonna get 2 terrain sets.
That's smart.
So I like that he made a pretty reasonable. It looks like a pretty reasonably balanced board that you could play on. That just comes with the stuff that you're, likely already getting, or like if you and a friend both buy and split like 2 starters, which I know a ton of people are doing, including Mass.
What, you want some?
No.
Brian is my new love, not you.
Right. But like if you and Brian were to play a game at Adepticon, you would have this terrain on you. It came in the 2 boxes that you got. So if you want to sit down on a table, you could just play on that board. And so I'm happy that somebody did that.
Yeah.
So
Roger M his terrain setup should be in the back of the rule book. There you go, Roger M.
Yeah.
Good job, man. Yeah, there's gonna be a lot for it. I'm curious, because we're more focused on organized play. I am curious how large tournaments are gonna do their stuff, but also I feel like now is not the time for sure. Just to let the game get out in the wild, let people play it, let people enjoy it, let people have fun with it, and just do weird and wacky stuff. I think terrain. I also think terrain is going to matter a lot more in this game than, say, some other games. There were times in other games where one piece of terrain in a bad position basically just zoned out one player, and it was just like, okay, this is just a bad map. But I feel with the movement, there should be a way to work around a lot of bad maps, but also, hopefully there's not, people just going out of their way to make bad maps.
No, and I don't think... Yeah, I think one of the things that'll be interesting to see is... I'm guessing tournaments are going to use predefined maps instead of having map placement.
Mm-hmm.
I have played games there have been editions of 40K where placing the terrain as you went, the alternating placement, was used in competitive play. And those games, and I didn't like that, because what would happen is I'm going to just go back to Leaf Blower, but I believe Leaf Blower was in the format where you would do that, and your opponent would take a piece of terrain and put it in a place, and you would take a piece of terrain and you would put it in as big of a piece as you could from the pieces that were selected, and you would put it in a far corner so that it was useless as cover. And then somebody would do that again, and you'd be like, okay, I'm going to put it on a line. So you basically just made the board a 48 by, however big those terrain pieces were. You'd cut off 6 to 12 inches on an entire board edge, and then just deploy on the other half. And it was it was dumb, because you literally just were using your deployments, your terrain placements, to remove half the terrain.
I know playing, so when I played War Machine, I know locally when we showed up to play, we would do terrain, you go, I go, back and forth. I think one of the big things that War Machine did was that there was a line of sight blocking piece of terrain in the middle of the table, so that someone couldn't just shoot you right across from the beginning, because that always sucks. But I remember Mark II, a lot of people would not put a piece of line of sight blocking terrain in the table, or in the middle of the table, because it just wasn't a thing anyone did, because it didn't. They were like, no, I want to shoot ya. And you'd only really see it in tournaments, or it would be on one side. And in Mark III, they forced it in their tournament pack to have a piece of line, a building, a forest, anything to block line of sight in the middle of the table. While let's see here, Starcraft, the TTS tables all kind of do that with the various walls, just kind of being around there. What I think is really great, just to break up the straight line shooting in this game. So it's more angular shooting, and maybe you can't get all the guys you're trying to shoot, what I quite like. And is also a skill to work around to actually bear your guns to arms against an opponent and a majority of their unit to kind of kill them off. You don't want to be I'm going to put 12 shots in, and I do 3 damage, and they're like, okay, cool, you kill one of my guys, but that's the only one you can see, so now you can't get to the rest of them, and you're like, fuck! Damn it! Should have moved or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's always... Terrain is relevant, and it is part of the game, and I'm actually very excited to see what the official terrain deployments are, because 1, I know people will put those up on TTS, but 2, it'll give me an idea for what I'm going to see in a tournament, because ultimately, I play games for fun with friends on random days, mostly to practice and get better at the game for when I go to tournaments.
Same. That tends to be my experience as well. So, like I said, the terrain just seems like it's going to be interesting as far as can an event really get the density that we're seeing on these TTS maps where it seems to work really well.
Yeah, I would agree there because I think the game changes a bit for some of the factions if there's less terrain on the table.
Yeah,
we don't want Planet Bowling Ball. Just open sightlines. Don't want that.
Planet Parking Lot.
Yeah, just parking lot. Play your 3 siege tanks in the parking lot.
Come at me, bro. They have templates.
A whole planet with just one topographical feature? What kind of cruel god would make this? George Lucas?
Yeah. I see you're a desert planet with 2 suns. Welcome. I see you're a snow planet with 1 sun. Welcome. Hey, he's diversifying there with the sun count.
That's for sure.
Okay.
All right.
We got one big thing about Bonktable Season 2 of StarCraft is that Ben does have a bedtime. So that means we will be recording a maximum of 1 hour and 30 minutes. There will be a timer, so if you hear that go off, that means we have 10 minutes left to wrap it up. Currently, Ben, you have 20 minutes before we have to do our wrap up. So, gentlemen, what are some things you like about each of the factions you picked? We will start with Apex Chinchilla and his Zerg, because I think people want to know. And what's something? Okay, here's a better question for you. What's something after playing a couple games now have you really like about the faction you picked and want to explore more of the faction you picked?
And one tip.
Oh, that's good.
And one tip. So one of the things I've really enjoyed so far is that there's a lot of options in Zerg for mobility, both on deployment and on just something like Raptors and Kerrigan with her place, just kind of jumping through terrain and jumping onto things. I really like that. I really like aggressive play and big threat ranges, and you can do that with burrow ambush hydras with groove spines, where they can come on out to 18 and then have 16-inch shooting, or Raptors or Kerrigan swarm being speed 5 base accelerating creep to speed 6, and then getting additional distance on charges through a couple of other cards. You've got these big threat ranges you can leverage if you really want to. The tip is that just because you can move 18, you don't have to. You never have to use the whole distance. That's a learning experience, especially if you're new to wargaming. Because you have the distance does not mean you have to use the distance.
I paid for the whole speedometer.
Yeah.
And I actually fully expect StarCraft, because it's based around another IP, is going to draw in a fair number of people who have just never played a tabletop game before.
I've been seeing that. A lot of people are I'm new to war games, and this one's really cool. So
and burrow ambush is awesome, but you're not usually going to use all 18.
Yep.
You can. Sometimes you will. And the way burrow ambush is written, second tip, if you are playing Kerrigan Swarm and you have the Omega Worm out, the Omega Worm is an entry edge for you, so you can burrow ambush off of the worm, which can actually be super relevant as far as getting to objectives.
That is a good tip.
that is a
I know Matt loves that. Matt loves that concept.
There are so many things of the other two factions. I'm grumble, 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 grumble. Ben, do you want to go next? Or you
Local
want me to do
Terran player yells at sun.
Yeah. That'll be like that one meme from SpongeBob where it's my eyes, and the fish getting my eyes burnt out. Oh god. Got Kerrigan behind me. Look at it. Ah.
I still think you should rework the logo to be a Terran shooting a watermelon patterned Zergling.
Oh, that'd be good. Or the Zergling is in watermelon colors. And
the Zergling
Banelings!
watermelon colors.
We totally forgot about Banelings. Can you imagine when those little bastards show up?
I can't wait. I am waiting for Zagara. I think she's early. I know Ben sent me the release schedule because I was sort of wrong. Where to go?
You were not sort of wrong.
August
so
26th.
Wave 2 is in June. And it's going to be Siege Tank, Ravager, and Immortal. Zeratal will also get his rules then. And a different sculpt is my understanding. Then in August, we're getting the high ground terrain set for Lost Temple, which I'm really actually excited for, which is weird because I think this is the only time I've ever cared about a terrain set in anything ever. Then we're also getting Raven and Nova, Defiler and Zagara, and High Templars and Tassadar. I'm sad that this says High Templars and it doesn't say Archon.
Well, they don't have the Dark Templar yet to combine into one. I know you only need 2 High Templars, but maybe you can only they make it so you have to get one of each or something.
And then Wave 4 in October is the Flyers, right? Scout, Banshee, and Mutalisk.
Oh, okay. I love the Banshee.
So I'm gonna rant here. Why does Protoss get an extra hero? That's nonsense.
Because he's the best boy, don't you know? Go play StarCraft 1, go play StarCraft 2, and tell me Zeratul is not the best character out of all those bastards.
I feel like if anybody
are you Zeratul over Phoenix?
I don't give a shit about Phoenix. Zeratul's way better.
The Zerg player is not allowed to complain about units. Protoss and Terran both have 7 unit cards, and Zerg has 12.
Yeah, because you spammed roaches.
Because of all the different strains of stuff.
Yeah.
Which is its own issue. Like I know the game is not like what you see is what you get, but like for me to keep track of stuff, I'm going to probably need the kits to be what they are. Otherwise, I'm going to forget which of my plain roaches is really a vile roach.
You just put it in Nurgle's Rot.
I could do that. Yeah. Yeah.
I do. But yeah, there are probably some quick ways to do it. Let's see. Okay, so I guess I can do Protoss. Well, let's see. I'm gonna start with my tip actually because I kind of touched on it earlier. So there's a couple of rules things with Adepts right now that aren't completely clear, but Psionic Transfer is incredibly good, and you generally want to be in melee or very close to enemy units with Adepts. So, in Massimize game, in our most recent game, the card for Psionic Transfer said, when you placed the unit, it said, place in coherency of the Shade token. It has been updated, kind of stealth updated in beta 1.4 to now say set the models in coherency, which might mean that they can't go into melee anymore. You can't use them for engagement. It doesn't mean that by raw for clarity, but because the restrictions to prevent you from going into melee are listed in the actions that move you that can't. So like deploy says you can't be placed in engagement range, and move says you can't be placed within 1 inch of enemy models, which is interesting that they use different wording. I'm expecting that stuff to clear up. Again, that's why I said the rules are mostly really tight. There's a couple of little like sketchy stuff like that. I currently believe that the intention is the reason they made that change is that they are intending Psionic Transfer to not be able to set up into engagement.
But until they do that, you should put the Adepts into engagement and kill the Terran player.
So how much does that change you playing them?
Probably not at all.
It doesn't change. Yeah, not at all. They're still extremely good. You still use them for the same things. You just probably the next turn have to use something like Warp Prism or just charge to get them engaged with things. Like you still want to get Adepts in melee because they are still better in melee than most other things. Some stuff you might like, if you can. I guess like probably the biggest tip for Protoss is Warp Prism is a 3-inch place, and you can go into engagement range with it. You should try to do that almost every turn, because especially against Terran, but against Zerg, it'll turn off their impact hits. It'll keep things from shooting you. It's very, very valuable. One of the things I really like about Protoss, Zealots are an especially good example of this, is they are very cheap for 2 supply. that means that Protoss tends to play a little slower in the early part of the game, but then has a pretty significant advantage fighting over zones in the second half of the game. As the supply ramps up or as things start to die, Protoss lists tend to have more supply, and they tend to have more durable supply. The shield mechanic really does a good job of that. Like, obviously, your first Zealot, your first Stalker, your first Adept all have that bonus HP. So even though the units are not, like, that much more durable per point, their first couple of deaths are. So it's especially noticeable for Marines. It's very easy to get a Marine unit down to 0 supply, especially if they've stimmed once or twice. Because, like, you have to do 2 damage. If they've stimmed twice, you have to do 2 damage, and then the Marines, you got to supply off them, and they're not scoring anymore. So being cognizant of the fact that your units, your supply is relevant. I guess the other, like, another big tip I'm going to take away from Protoss is just, like, don't deploy Zealots on one. Just don't do it. Like, when in doubt, just never put a Zealot on the board on turn 1. That's not 100% true, but, like, unless you have a really, really good reason, you shouldn't be deploying Zealots into a place where they're just going to get shot. I like Protoss. I think that they're the best faction at scoring, which fits my playstyle, because you don't need to roll dice to score. So they're very consistent. You have a lot of mobility, and you have a lot of, like, tricks that you can pull to try to avoid getting shot. It's, you know, like you can place your shade token and then hide behind a wall and then not get shot on your adepts that turn, which is important because you're range 8, so you're probably getting outranged by things. If you deploy a lot of your activations early and use things like Artanis's return to get an additional action, you can a lot of times force your opponent to pass first, and then be able to set up your hidden with your stalkers after they've given up the opportunity to use their observer. If you are planning out your turn and your card usage well, you can gain pretty significant advantage, but it is a lot of planning with Protoss, and I really like that. I think that's very fun. And I've been doing it a lot. And I really enjoy those types of tricks. So.
Oh, it's good to hear. It's good to feel them. It's not good to feel them. Oh my god.
Mass is a glutton for punishment.
Basically. God. I guess we'll talk about Terran. Terran, you got the biggest gun. Like, your entire faction is guns. You do actually pretty incredible damage if you can shoot. And, like, if it's a straight up fight without any nonsense going on from the other two guys, teleporting stuff in, hiding, you can kind of just blast stuff to death and put in a lot of damage. What I quite like, and that's why I keep mentioning, like, the terrain, and then also hoping to play high ground to keep some of your stuff safer. Terran never wants to get into a melee fight, and when it does, you gotta learn about disengagement and kiting. So you always want to, like, one of the weird things I've learned with Terran is you kind of want to take up enough space and then start backing off, and you want to find your exit strategy of just backing off as things get closer and closer to you, especially the melee stuff or the things with shorter range than you. Because a lot of Terran's guns are a bit longer than a lot of the core stuff, or similar range than some of the, like, but is the Stalker an elite or is he a core? I forget.
He's elite.
He's elite, yeah. So, like, some of their elite stuff or even their core stuff, you're kind of long. Terran, I also like, is a bubble faction. Like, you have you want guys around each other. Like, medics have that bubble around them of, like, healing and reducing damage, and then they have the flare. So there's a lot of opportunity. They're one of those most fantastic support units I think I played with in really any game. Because usually a lot of support stuff kind of does one or two things. Like, one thing mainly, and then another conditional thing. While the medic is just getting constant use out of all phases of the game and at every opportunity. And even during the assault phase of the medic, you can run them into... You can charge them into stuff to lock things down, to keep them away from you. You can Body block with them, what's another great one. And because they're a medic, you really don't care about them once it's time for them to die. And a lot of people usually don't focus on them right away, simply because there's other targets in the way they need to kind of do damage first to. A big tip I can tell you guys is you're probably playing Jim Raynor, and you want to make the best use out of his stuff, and you want to keep him alive through the entire game. If you're losing him early, that's really bad. His abilities for your Marines and Marauders are huge. The Crit 2 and the Disengage are phenomenal abilities, and he has repeatable. So you're usually like spending 2 cards to just kind of get them off. And then the last one, Crit 2, the Disengage, the remove the activation token to make another, like during the movement phase, to get them either you run them up, your opponent counter deploys. Let's say you're running range 12 Marauders and your opponent's running Hydras with a range 16. Well, you can activate them again with Raynor and move them out of range, or push them up further so they are actually in range to maybe potentially hit first, kind of thing. Like, there's that going on. So Raynor is a very big key support piece, and you want to get use out of his orders a lot.
Yeah, which generally means activating him last. If somebody does engage one of your units that's already activated, you can give them free disengage and remove their token with Raynor to get them out, so that you can like dump your army into a better target, which is also very relevant. Yeah,
and Terran I found has a higher skill floor just because of how charges work in this game. You don't need line of sight to charge. You just need to actually measure the distance of your path of travel. So having Marauders nearby to reduce that charge distance helps keeping things away from you. And also being as far away as possible as you can from that thing will just help the Marauder prevent that thing from getting in. Like, there's been times where opponents like, oh, I can get in, and it's like, Marauder shot, now you can't. Or they're like, oh, I'm going to get on a 3, and now it's a 5, and you're like, oh, now you're not. So there's stuff like that, what's really good. I've always played Terran when I play StarCraft. Like, I just like the human cowboys, or the space rednecks, as people have kind of dubbed them.
I've always played Protoss, so I get it.
Yeah, like I just like them, so that's why I play them. They got good shooting. They're garbage in melee. Learn how to kite and disengage and get out of melee and have a path of travel to retreat to. You're gonna give up a lot of ground, but if you establish early and then back off in an according manner, you can kind of catch up on a supply because your opponent can't get to you nicely. And because if you're running like I am, where you're running a lot of MSUs or Raynor's Raiders, you want to kind of make use of your own movement shenanigans. It's not as, like I say, prevalent right off the top, like where your movement shenanigans is out of Terran. Like Go-Go's phenomenal. Raynor's Raiders dropping in is phenomenal. Dropship and the Raynor's Raiders tactics card for ready or pickup is really good. Like, start making a lot of use out of those is going to really help you get out of the way and make up for your lack of movement compared to all the weird, wacky shenanigans Zerg and Protoss is going to do. What's going to really help you secure games. But yeah, you have the biggest gun. Use it. Cool. We got 3 minutes left on the main one. We might as well just wind down now, because I'm pretty good for our first podcast in this. You guys happy?
I am.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Yeah, we got outro it. Let's Competent Conquest Band. What are your plugs? Plug them.
Well, I have a YouTube channel, Competent Conquest, and I've, at least for this game, I've pretty much just been playing live games whenever I have the time and can find an opponent. So right now, that's a lot of games against Mass, and hopefully I can get some more games in with a wider variety of armies instead of like just fighting Terran all day. Other than that, like, there's a post section where I post the army lists, and I'm always happy to talk about them. And yeah, if you're interested in trying to get a game on the channel, feel free to make a comment there or send me a DM on YouTube, and we'll try to work it out, because I'm happy to have fans on to battle. So,
Apex, do you have anything to plug?
I mean, not really. Ben and I should get a game in at some point so he can, Protoss some Zerg to see how horrid this is. I want to play this list that I think is terrible into Protoss, so I want to see how terrible it is. So,
Fuck those Hydras.
You
My
know.
God.
You love it. You love Hydras.
No,
No,
I do not.
I just show up where you tell me to, Mass. I'm pretty laid back. So join the Bonktable Discord if you want to chat with any of us. I think all three of us are on there and reasonably active. It's a good
Starcraft
Discord.
section. Yeah.
There's a Starcraft section.
It's moderated.
Sometimes.
Pretty moderated.
Yeah, there's nothing too out of pocket on the Bonktable Discord. That tends to get shut down fairly quickly.
Yeah, I'm not dealing with any of that crap. Yeah, so Bonktable Discord in the description below. Like and subscribe to both Competent Conquest and Bonktable on the YouTubes. As for Bonktable, right now it's just the live TTS games that just go up with a cool ass thumbnail I make, and we're doing this podcast to talk about the game, talk about things we like, give tips and tricks, look at improving oneself, and providing information about this game. What I hope everyone enjoys and likes. What else do I have to say? We'll probably do maybe in-depth tactic videos at some point as more play happens, so that we feel comfortable about talking about it, because it's always hey, you play a game, you mess up a rule, play another game, mess up a different rule, until you stop doing that and actually kind of figure out things that work. And that doesn't happen after the first couple games. It usually takes I would say a year or two where you feel really comfortable and confident to talk about those things and provide a lot of good advice to people.
A year? That's a long time.
Well, hey man, I only get so many games in.
You've played 7 this week.
Yeah, because it's all I've been doing.
I know.
I've played 2 games total, so
both into me.
Both into you, yeah. Actually, so one of the things about the Bonktable battle reports, if you're watching them, is it is just learning in real time, right? We're not cutting a bunch of stuff out. There's going to be a little bit of us having to talk through the rules and figure stuff out. Hopefully, the game stays really fun for us, and we do this for a long enough time that you can see the development in those games and them getting faster. But for the moment, it's an opportunity to learn some lessons with us as we go through these. So, it's kind of a fun thing to go back and look at later too.
I'll probably also do the analytical battle reports I used to do for Conquest, where it was pictures of each round and then talking about why things are going where, what the decisions are made and what happened through pictures and drawing lines on it, John Madden style, what I do love.
Yeah, we should do some retrospectives on that, and we can do it while drinking.
Oh man, I want I want to record your guys' game top down, and then do my own and play it on 2x speed like Ben used to do for Conquest, and be all right,
perfect, yeah.
But
that's
also
fine.
The analytical battle reports, John Madden style, will probably be more in person stuff. So you'll see actual physical models and terrain setups. Maybe one of those will be generated at Adepticon, but yeah.
As long as I can use the telestrator to draw genitalia on the screen.
Oh my god!
That's all. I need this. Don't take this from me, Mass.
All right, John Madden, you drew another penis. Oh, sorry, there, guys.
It's a terrible John Madden impression.
I barely watched any John Madden. He was kind of.
So you're Canadian. How much American football did you watch?
I watched Red Green Show and Don Cherry in hockey. We don't talk about John Cherry anymore.
The Red Green Show.
You can drive a Mack truck through that penis hole. There's my John Madden. I don't remember. I played the Madden games when I was a kid, and I just remember him saying, "That's such a big hole. You could drive a Mack truck through there." And he didn't have that many recorded lines back on Sega Genesis, so you heard the 4 or 5 things it would say 100 times. It's burned into my brain.
The last hockey EA
playing Madden 95 on Sega.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
Oh lord,
so old. They're still doing Madden each year, but
is that older than you, Mass?
95? No,
94.
94 is older than me.
Yeah. Because the year comes out kind of ahead, so
yeah. They would always come out in fall, and then it would be for the next season, the season that goes through. Yeah,
that's funny.
It's like Cars.
Yeah,
Like the 2027 cars will come out in like October.
I always find it weird. It's like the new 2027. It's just like, what? It's still 2026. What are you guys doing? It took me years to understand what that meant.
All right.
Yeah, I don't know.
Are we
I don't know why
wrapped
they do
up?
We are officially wrapped up. Everyone have a great day. Bye.
Bye.
Adios, everyone.